So recall, from our last class, this is the quadratic form, ax squared plus bx plus c. We've been using this form for the last chapter, chapter 4 and chapter 5, and we've been factoring. Now we're running into a problem where we cannot factor a quadratic. In this case, we need the quadratic formula. Quadratic formula is used when you cannot factor, when you cannot find combinations of c that add up to b. The quadratic formula consists of negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And this is going directly in relationship to quadratic form with the ABC. So negative b would be the same as, I like to say, opposite of b. So whatever this number is, it's the opposite. Plus or minus b squared, still using that same b there, minus 4ac. So we got the a, the c, and then the a comes back on the bottom all over 2a. Let's look at a general example just so we make sure we understand how to plug our numbers in to our quadratic formula. So we have 2x squared minus 4x minus 5. Okay, and we're going to plug this into our quadratic formula. So right here is my a, right here is my b, and right here is my c. Okay, so opposite of what b is. My b is a negative 4, so opposite of a negative would be a positive 4. So I start right here with a 4 plus or minus square root. I have a negative 4 squared, I'm going to plug it as a negative 4 right now. The negative will go away. Minus 4 times a, where's my a here? It's 2. I have a negative 5 for my c, all over 2 times a. From here, I'm just going to go and simplify. I'm just going to do some multiplication, some squaring, and get it down to exact form. Exact form is leaving it in the form with the radical present, not getting a decimal. You want to leave it the way it is. So I have 4 plus or minus square root. Negative 4 squared would be a positive 16. Minus 4 times 2 is 8. Times a negative 5 is a negative 40. So a minus a negative 40 makes it plus 40. You can easily tell that by seeing that there's two negatives present. There's two negatives present, which means they're going to cancel out. All over 2 times 2 is 4. Got one last little simplification to do here. I have 4 plus or minus 16 plus 40 is 56. Okay, so I got 4 plus or minus root 56 all over 4. You can go ahead and break this down if you're good with breaking your radicals down into, I'm just write real small here, 4 times 14. We break that down because 4 is a perfect square and that 4 comes out as a 2. So now when I write it all the way clean, it's going to be 4 plus or minus 2 root 14 all over 4. And I have one last thing that I can do. I can go ahead and simplify these fractions here. I have a 4 over 4 and I have a 2 over 4. Those reduce. 4 over 4 is easily 1. So we write the final answer right here. 1 plus or minus 2 over 4 goes to 1/2. Okay, so we have a root 14 all over the 2 because the 1's up here, but you don't have to write a 1. That would be your final answer. In exact form, as you can see, our radical is in exact form because it hasn't been simplified. Okay. Now let's go take a second to erase my little whiteboard here. And let's talk about discriminant. I'm going to go ahead and rewrite the quadratic formula up here, and we're going to box it so we can save it. Just again, negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, now the discriminant. The good thing about discriminant, it's a piece of the quadratic formula. It's the part under the radical. So which would be, right here, b squared minus 4ac. So your discriminant is your b squared minus 4ac. You may ask, well, what does that do for you? Well, we have to recall that we're talking about parabolas. We have parabolas that cross the x-axis 2 times. We have parabolas that bounce off the x-axis 1 time. And we have parabolas that do not cross the x-axis at all. The discriminant tells us which parabola we're dealing with. This would be 2 times, the bad equal sign there. This would be 1 time, and this would be none, or no real solutions. Discriminant tells us these. We have 3 situations. Our b squared minus 4ac can be 3 things. It can be less than 0, greater than 0, and equal to 0. When b squared minus 4ac is less than 0, that means it's a negative number. That means no real solutions, or none. When it's greater than 0, that means 2 solutions. Okay, too much space there. And when it's equal to 0, that is 1 solution. Let's go and take a look at an example and see how many solutions this quadratic has. So I'm going to go ahead and look at the example 6x squared plus 4x plus 1. So I'm still looking at my quadratic form here up here. I still have to remember my a and my b and my c, where they come from. Okay, remember my 6 would be my a, my 4 would be my b, my 1 would be my c. So I'm putting into b squared minus 4ac. b squared, so that's 4 squared minus 4 times a is 6, c is 1. 4 squared is 16. I have 4 times 6 times 1, which is 24, and just 1 minus sign, which means it's going to stay minus. 16 minus 24 is a negative 8. So now you look up here, where does negative 8 fall? Well, negative 8 is less than 0. Since negative 8 is less than 0, then this parabola will have no solution. Okay? Which means my parabola looks something like this. It won't cross the x-axis. In closing, we got to remember our real world connection. We talked about smoke jumpers. The distance they jump from a plane and where they land is determined by gravity. We have to remember that parabolas, when we turn them upside down, are a way to figure out where they can start and where they can land. So when thinking about parabolas and you're wondering why am I learning this, this is easy to think about because gravity is everywhere. I mean, we talk about throwing a baseball, we talk about hitting a golf ball, jumping out of a plane. Parabolas can figure us out how far you hit it or how long until you need to pull your parachute so you can survive. Hope this helps out.